The county recorder's office officially rejected the transfer 5 days later. Evan got a call at work from the title agent. I was home when Kelsey called me, screaming so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. "What the hell did you do?" she yelled. "You sabotaged us. You ruined everything." I let her finish her rant before responding calmly. "I didn't do anything, Kelsey. I just own the house. I've always owned the house. Evan never had the right to give it away." She hung up on me. 20 minutes later, Evan came home early, his face pale and tight with anger. He didn't speak. He just went straight to his office and slammed the door. I poured myself a glass of wine and waited for the next explosion. The next morning, Evan was served at his office. Divorce papers, complete asset breakdown, full documentation of every financial deceit he'd committed. Witness statements from friends who'd seen the pattern of abuse. Screenshots of his messages with Kelsey. Bank records showing the money he'd funneled to her. Tax documents he'd hidden. The evidence was comprehensive, devastating, and irrefutable. Kelsey blocked me on all social media within an hour. Evan came home that evening in complete silence. He walked past me without making eye contact and went straight to the bedroom. I stayed downstairs, poured another glass of wine, and watched the sunset through the kitchen window. Everything was unfolding exactly as I'd planned. The satisfaction was quiet but absolute. He screamed at me that night. Really screamed, his face red and twisted with rage. He punched a wall, leaving a dent in the drywall I'd have to repair later. He told me I'd ruined everything, that I'd betrayed him, that I was vindictive and cruel. The accusations poured out in a torrent of blame and self-pity. I stood there calmly, arms crossed, waiting for him to finish. When he finally ran out of words, breathing hard and sweating, I spoke quietly. "You gave away a house that was never yours," I said. "You plotted with your sister to throw me out of my own home. You stole my money and lied about it for years. And now you're angry because I protected myself?" He had no answer. He just stormed out and didn't come home that night. Kelsey's social circle turned on her quickly. Friends who'd seen her posts about the new home started asking questions. A real estate agent friend told people the truth. Kelsey had tried to steal a house through fraud. The humiliation spread through her network like wildfire. Clients canceled contracts with her interior design business. Her Instagram following dropped by hundreds. She deleted the registry, the selfies, all evidence of her attempted theft. But the internet never forgets, and people had screenshots. She tried texting Evan for support, but he didn't reply. She was no longer useful to him now that the plan had failed. She'd been a tool, just like me. Now she was just an embarrassment he wanted to forget. The IRS audit hit Evan next. I'd reported the missing tax returns and unreported gifts to Kelsey months earlier, right after creating my evidence file. The investigation had been proceeding quietly in the background while Evan focused on stealing my house. Now the audit results came through. Tens of thousands in unreported income, fraudulent deductions, and tax evasion. Evan had no paper trail to defend himself because he'd never expected to get caught. His lawyer told him he was facing significant penalties and possible criminal charges. Evan called me crying, begging me to help him, to tell the IRS it was all a mistake. I didn't pick up. I let his calls go to voicemail, where his desperate pleas piled up unheard and unanswered. I hosted a housewarming party 2 months later. Just friends, people who actually cared about me. Wine, laughter, good music echoing through every room. My name on the deed, my choices in every detail. I wore the red dress Evan had once said was too much, that made me look like I was trying too hard. Now I wore it proudly, dancing in my living room with people who celebrated me instead of diminishing me. Through the front window, I saw Evan's car drive by slowly. He was watching the party, watching me reclaim the life he'd tried to steal. I saw his face in the glow of the streetlight, twisted with bitterness and loss. I watched him for a moment, then turned away. He didn't deserve another second of my attention. The divorce finalized in early spring. I kept everything I'd paid for, which was nearly everything. The house, the car, my savings, my retirement accounts. Evan was left with debt, a broken lease on a tiny apartment, and a mattress on the floor because he couldn't afford furniture. His credit was destroyed. His reputation was ruined. His relationship with Kelsey had imploded into mutual blame and resentment. She'd unfollowed him on social media, blocked his number, refused to speak to him. The siblings who'd plotted together had turned on each other the moment their scheme collapsed. I felt no satisfaction in his downfall, just a quiet sense of justice. He'd tried to erase me. Instead, he'd erased himself. Evan left a letter in my mailbox a week after the divorce was final. No apology inside, just a bitter message blaming me for everything falling apart. He called me manipulative, vindictive, cold. He said I'd destroyed his life on purpose, that I'd never loved him. The letter was full of self-pity and zero accountability. I read it once, standing in my driveway. Then I went inside and burned it in the fireplace, watching the paper curl and blacken in the flames. The smoke rose up the chimney, carrying his words away forever. I took a photo of the burning letter and texted my lawyer, "Let's close the final account." Within days, every legal connection between Evan and me was severed. I was finally, completely free. I started therapy to process everything I'd survived. I started taking dance classes again, something I'd loved before Evan convinced me I wasn't good at it. I reconnected with old friends I'd lost touch with during my marriage. My laugh came back, genuine and loud. I painted my kitchen yellow, a color Evan had hated. I bought new furniture, hung new artwork, planted flowers in the garden. Every change was intentional, erasing his presence from my space. One morning, I caught my reflection in the bathroom mirror and barely recognized myself. I looked lighter somehow, younger. I whispered to my reflection, "You made it out." And I smiled, really smiled, for the first time in years. I walked through my house barefoot on a Sunday morning, coffee in hand, sunlight pouring through clean windows. The title to the property sat framed in my study, a reminder of the battle I'd won quietly and legally. Every room reflected my taste, my peace, my choices. No more walking on eggshells, no more apologizing for existing, no more shrinking to make someone else comfortable. The house was mine. The life was mine. The future was mine. Evan had tried to take everything from me, to erase me like I'd never mattered. But I had already taken it all back, quietly, legally, completely. I'd won not by fighting loudly but by planning carefully. And now I stood in the home I'd protected, stronger than I'd ever been, ready for whatever came next. He'd underestimated me. That had been his fatal mistake. I found it by accident, folded in quarters and stained with coffee, shoved deep into the kitchen trash beneath eggshells and paper towels. A real estate transfer document. My hands shook as I smoothed it flat on the counter. Evan had signed our house over to his sister, Kelsey. Just like that. No discussion, no warning, no guilt. The document looked official, complete with notary stamps and legal language. I stood there trying to breathe while Evan hummed in the shower upstairs, completely oblivious. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might crack my ribs. Then I looked at the signature line again, really looked at it, and something unexpected happened. I started laughing. Quietly at first, then harder. Because Evan had no idea what he'd just tried to do. He had no idea the house wasn't his to give away. I made him coffee the next morning. Extra cream, just how he liked it. I kissed his cheek when he came downstairs, watched him check his phone and lie smoothly about a work meeting he had to attend. I said nothing about the paper in the trash. Instead, I asked casually what he and Kelsey were planning for the weekend. He took a sip of coffee and smiled. "We might stop by the house to measure some stuff," he said. "She wants to repaint after you're gone." The words hung in the air between us. After you're gone. He said it so casually, like discussing the weather. I nodded slowly and turned back to the stove. My hands were steady. My voice was calm. Inside, I was calculating every move I'd make next. My name is Brooke. I'm 36 years old. I used to be the kind of woman who cried in bathroom stalls at work, who apologized when someone else bumped into me in the grocery store. I was soft, accommodating, eager to please. But that was before I married Evan. Before I learned that kindness could be weaponized against you. Before I discovered that sometimes the only way to survive is to stay quiet and plan in the background while everyone underestimates you. 3 years ago, after Evan gambled away part of my inheritance, I put the title to this house in a living trust. My name only. Not joint. Not community property. Just mine. Evan never asked about the paperwork. He never read what he signed. He just assumed. I remembered that night clearly. The night I created the trust. Evan had come home late, smelling like whiskey and cheap cologne. When I asked about the missing money, he'd waved his hand dismissively. It's just poker, Brooke. Relax. I'll win it back. But he never did. He never even apologized. Instead, he told me I was overreacting, being dramatic, making problems where none existed. That night, I opened a bottle of wine, called a lawyer my friend had recommended, and started building my escape plan. I didn't know when I'd need it. I just knew that someday, eventually, I would. And now that day had arrived. The trap he'd walked into was one I'd set 3 years ago, waiting patiently for him to spring it himself. Kelsey had always hated me. From the moment Evan and I got engaged, she made it clear I wasn't family and never would be. At our wedding, she wore white. At family dinners, she excluded me from conversations and talked over me when I tried to contribute. She told mutual friends that Evan had married beneath himself, that I was lucky to have him. Every holiday became a test of my endurance. Every gathering felt like walking through a minefield. So when I saw her name on that house transfer document, everything clicked into place. This wasn't a sudden decision. This was their plan all along. They'd been working together, plotting my removal like I was an inconvenient houseguest who'd overstayed her welcome. The betrayal was complete, calculated, and cruel. The next morning, I went to the bank. I froze our joint accounts, citing suspected fraud. The banker was sympathetic, professional. I opened a separate account in my name only and quietly redirected my paycheck. Every move was calculated, deliberate, leaving no room for error. I felt like a chess player moving pieces into position while my opponent wasn't watching the board. That evening, Evan texted me from work. Did you mess with our bank account? There's a problem. I can't access anything. I responded immediately, really? That's strange. Maybe it's a system glitch? I'll call them tomorrow. But I didn't call anyone. I just waited, watching him twist in confusion while I gathered more evidence and strengthened my position. I told Evan it was probably just a technical error with the bank system. I smiled, played concerned, asked if he'd tried calling customer service himself. He bought it completely. Meanwhile, I spent every evening printing bank statements, credit card receipts, and transaction histories. Every suspicious withdrawal, every gift he'd given Kelsey, every unexplained expense. I organized everything chronologically in a 3-ring binder. The evidence was overwhelming. Thousands of dollars funneled to his sister over the past 2 years. Weekend trips charged to our joint card that he claimed were work conferences. Designer handbags and electronics that mysteriously appeared at Kelsey's house. I labeled the binder simply, evidence. It sat in my locked filing cabinet, waiting for the right moment to be revealed. Evan never noticed I'd replaced our shared filing cabinet with one that locked. Never saw me scanning documents in the middle of the night while he slept. Never realized I was turning into a ghost with a camera, documenting everything he did and said. He was too busy texting Kelsey, planning their future in my house. I found their messages one afternoon when he left his phone on the kitchen counter. She won't fight it, Kelsey wrote. She never fights anything. Evan replied, 2 more weeks and she'll be gone. Then we can renovate properly. I took screenshots of everything and added them to my evidence file. They thought I was weak, compliant, easy to erase. They had no idea I was building their destruction one document at a time. I thought about the years of emotional abuse, the slow erasure of my voice and opinions. How Evan made me feel small, like a guest in my own home. The way he dismissed my thoughts, interrupted my stories, corrected my statements in front of friends. The subtle ways he undermined my confidence until I doubted my own memory and judgment. The gaslighting had been so gradual I'd barely noticed it happening. One day I was a confident woman with her own business. The next, I was apologizing for existing and asking permission to buy groceries. But even ghosts can haunt. And I was getting stronger in silence, building power while everyone assumed I was fading away. My weakness had been a mask. Now I was ready to remove it. Evan invited friends over for dinner that Friday. He showed off the house like it was already his to give away, pointing out features and talking about future renovations. Kelsey showed up uninvited, walking through the rooms like she owned them. She criticized the paint colors, suggested new flooring, wrinkled her nose at my furniture choices. "We'll make it modern," she announced to everyone. "Clean lines, neutral palette. It needs so much work." I stood in the doorway watching her performance. Then I smiled and spoke clearly. "Kelsey, I need you to leave. My house, my rules." The room went silent. She laughed nervously. I didn't. She left 10 minutes later, confused and angry. Evan pulled me aside afterward. "What's wrong with you?" he hissed. I just smiled and cleared the dishes. I made an appointment with my trust lawyer, the one who'd helped me set everything up 3 years ago. He remembered me immediately. We sat in his office while he reviewed my file. "Your trust is airtight," he confirmed. "Evan can't legally touch the title. Any transfer he attempts won't hold up in court." I showed him the coffee-stained document I'd found. He examined it carefully, then shook his head. "This is worthless. He doesn't have standing to transfer property he doesn't own." He looked at me seriously. "You're in the driver's seat here, Brooke. Whenever you're ready to move forward, say the word." I thanked him and left his office feeling lighter than I had in years. The power had always been mine. I'd just been waiting for the right moment to use it. I let them proceed with their plan. I watched from the shadows as Evan brought his forged paperwork to a sleazy title agent who worked out of a strip mall office. But I'd already notified the county recorder's office about potential fraud. I'd filed the necessary paperwork to flag my property for any suspicious activity. The transfer would be blocked automatically. Kelsey didn't know that when she posted a selfie standing in my living room with the caption, "New home vibes, nail polish, so excited for this next chapter." I saved the screenshot. Evidence, always more evidence. They were documenting their own fraud for me, making my case stronger with every arrogant post and careless text message. Let them celebrate. The fall would be so much harder from up there. I started planting quiet seeds with our mutual friends. I mentioned I might move out soon, that things with Evan weren't working. I let people see me looking at apartment listings on my phone. I acted emotionally checked out, distant, defeated. Evan grew bolder. He started sleeping later, ignoring me completely, making plans without telling me. He even gave Kelsey access to my closet, and she started moving some of her clothes in. One afternoon I came home to find her shoes in my bedroom, her perfume on my dresser. The violation was stunning. But I didn't react. I just took photos, added them to my evidence file, and continued playing the role of the beaten wife who'd already given up. They had no idea I was directing this entire performance. Kelsey created a gift registry for her new home. I discovered it through a mutual friend who thought I should know. Custom throw pillows, a designer blender, artwork for the walls, kitchen gadgets I'd never heard of. The registry was titled Kelsey's Kingdom, with little crown emojis. I scrolled through the items, my anger cold and focused. Then I ordered something from the registry myself. A doormat that read in bold letters, "Not your house." I had it delivered to my address with a gift note, "Congratulations on your imaginary home. Love, reality." The doormat arrived 3 days later. I placed it at the front door. Kelsey saw it when she showed up unannounced. Her face went red. She left without saying a word. Evan tried to, gently, tell me he needed me to move out soon. We were in the kitchen when he brought it up, his voice soft and patronizing like he was talking to a child. "It's nothing personal, Brooke," he said. "We just need different things now. I think it's time for you to find your own place." I acted shocked, hurt, my eyes wide. "How much time do I have?" I asked quietly. 2 weeks, he said, kissing my forehead like he was being generous. "That should be enough, right?" I nodded slowly and went upstairs to our bedroom. Then I sat at my desk and emailed my lawyer with one line, "It's time. File everything." His response came within minutes, "Consider it done." The wheels of justice were now in motion.